What's good, gamers? Blow941 here, and in today's video I wanted to do a little year in review for the Lightfall era of Destiny 2. When this video goes up, we should be about an hour away from the final shape going live, so I figured this would be a good time to take a look back on all the events that occurred this year. Before we get started, if y'all could click the like button, hit the subscribe as well, that'd be awesome. I upload 2 videos a week, and for the next few, that's going to be all Destiny stuff to capitalize on the expansion release. Thanks. Alright, so let's go back a bit. Back to February 28th, 2023, Lightfall launch day. How did the titular expansion and campaign do? Well, it was sure one of the Destiny 2 campaigns of all time. Not many people were happy with Nimbus as a character, finding them to be childish and annoying, which, in their defense, is apparently a symptom of the Neo-Moonite culture, being very oppressive in nature, and Nimbus being quite literally a child soldier given superpowers. With every fucking line out of them, felt like the kid from Aquaman that got to play teenage Jason Momoa.
Are you saying they executed her? Because she had me?
I don't know, I'm not the right person to criticize the narrative. I'm not a good writer, and other more intelligent people have done a better job than me already, so I'm just gonna leave it at that. Strand, the big focus, was and continues to be super fucking fun. I know that Threaded Spectre was really annoying when it was the dominant strategy in PvP, but the element in general is just really fun. High APM, high skill ceiling, it's very, very, very fun. The encounter right side of the Veil in Containment, where you're holding off against Calus' forces with Keitel, is the perfect showcase for it on Legend, and that was the saving grace for the campaign in my opinion. Neo-Moonite itself, it sure is pretty, and Bungie always knocks it out of the park with their environmental design. This space is gorgeous. I love the aesthetic. I love the pretty lights and all the flashing colors, and just I like you look at these walls with this graffiti on it, and it's just this Neo-Moonite is a very, very beautiful location. Maya's Rest, Veil Containment, Neo-Moonite, Public, whatever the fuck. Like all these different spots are just beautiful. Zephyr Concourse, I think is what it's called. Beautiful location. Now, does it feel like an active war zone, though? Because that was what they wanted it to feel like, apparently. No, it doesn't. It's just a beefier patrol space until the Vex incursion happens. Then it gets so crazy that the game crashes from all the effects going off. So, I guess, I mean, in one specific spot, it feels like a war zone some of the time, if your game can handle it. Lightfall's content itself was fine. Unfortunately, fine wasn't what we needed for the penultimate expansion. The falling action just kind of fell without us really feeling like we had failed, and that's really unfortunate. I don't feel like we lost, but I was told that we lost in a cutscene, so alright. What about the raid? Well, it sucked. It really sucked, actually. It's 12 PM Eastern Standard Time on March 10th, 2023. The Root of Nightmares raid has just gone live in Destiny 2's most recent expansion, Lightfall, the last chapter before the end of the originally planned to be 10-year Light and Darkness saga. The time when shit's supposed to be pretty difficult thematically. As mentioned previously, the falling action. Raiding is the quintessential activity in Destiny 2. The hardest of the hard. Challenge mode, raiding, takes that to the next level. It's one of the few times a year when the truly skilled are tested and can experience difficulty beyond self-limiting challenges and higher tier activities. Teams prep strats and gear, optimizing everything, practicing over and over, strengthening across the board as a team, doing damage tests, theory crafting, everything. The more casual player base either convinces their buddies to give it a shot themselves, or picks a streamer to watch their team's attempt at a first place. It's like the Super Bowl, or for those in my audience who don't have sex, the Invitational. It's the esports event for Destiny. For Lightfall, Bungie even paid streamers who aren't Destiny creators to check out the raid and participate in the race. It's quite literally the best time to be a Destiny fan and player. The race for World's First will be over in 2 hours and 25 minutes. So what the fuck happened? Well, a few different things contributed to how easy it all was. Somehow, Root of Nightmares enemies were less aggressive than Neo-Moonite Patrol tier enemies, and Patrol being the actual bottom of the difficulty barrel. 3 of the 4 encounters, including the raid boss Nezarec, essentially boiled down to 1 or 2 people doing the mechanic, with Nezarec being able to be ignored entirely, and everybody else was doing ad clear. It was Baby's first raid at the time when we really needed anything but. Now, I'm an elitist asshole who asks for difficult encounters, so maybe I wasn't the target audience. In fact, I know I wasn't the target audience. But everybody that wasn't on Reddit praising how little they had to engage their brains on fucking contest mode felt how awful this was. And those from the outside of the community that Bungie hoped to bring in, I can't think of a single high-profile name that stayed. None of the people they tried to attract with this stuck around. Look, I can't speak to the why of the situation. I just know how not good it felt at the time. And compounding with the sentiment around the Lightfall campaign itself, community morale was not doing very well. Things are not looking that great for the start of the year. What about the first season? Well, they killed off Amanda. One of the better characters we've had in Destiny, and that really hurt. Especially considering that Lance Reddick passed away as well. That was a big blow. That people felt that all over the place. That sucked. Narratively, though, it was probably time to have some losses. It helped Crow get some more character growth, and that's a good thing. It's always nice when the main character can actually progress. As far as gameplay goes, it's pretty light on anything crazy. The Avalon mission was kind of cool, and pretty difficult on Legend at the time. Brachion being resistant to super damage so that it would be able to counter getting nuked by Will of Radiance was pretty fucking funny. The Season of Defiance is a pretty standard season tied to an expansion release. They tend to be a little light, and that's perfectly acceptable. It was supposed to be us fighting a war against the Witness, I guess. I don't know. It felt like a standard season. Run battlegrounds, do a couple of strikes, do a mission. Alright, cool. The next season, though, adds something that, given Destiny's reputation as a dad game, surprisingly wasn't there yet. Fishing. So Season of the Deep was pretty good. Fishing minigames tend to improve most games they get added to, in my opinion. Shout out to Hades. But Destiny fishing kind of sucked. It was relaxing enough to be something to kill time while you shoot the shit with your buddies, like a step above jumping around the tower. Unfortunately, it was tied to the public event schedule, so you would go, let's go fishing for a bit, and then have to wait for the public event to end in your instance. The meter that you built up over time also kinda sucks. I get rewarding multiple people engaging, but it's a fishing minigame. Adding a boost based on if people picked up a certain tier of fish just kinda sucks. It adds an element of performance to an activity that's supposed to be chill, and really should only test your timing, and I'm not really a fan of that. Not to mention, apparently it could be macroed, which... Alright, cool. Oh, and it also was tied to the exotic quest. So, Wicked Implement, the scout rifle that they added that season, is a fine enough weapon. That's not why this is kind of meh. Having to require one person to get 3 different exotic fish, I think is kind of annoying. I get the secret that you wanted, I get hunting for stuff, and I like the fact that not everybody in the fire team needed to have all 3 fish. I think that's really cool. It still kind of felt bad, because I wanted to go play a new exotic mission, and then I had to go fish for a couple of hours. That felt bad. Can I help you? Okay, well, I'm speaking, so I need to... Yeah, come here. Alright, there you go. You can get closer and we can... There you go. You okay? Alright, cool. Not to mention how actually accessing the mission works. You have to load into a deep dive and play through 2 of the encounters, hitting statues on your way down, and then jump into a portal. I don't really like doing busy work before I get to play the actual game, and deep dives weren't consistent or fun enough to make me feel like it was actually part of the exotic mission. The mission itself, once you got into it, was great. I really liked the difficulty, the timer rocks, and it was nice to have to sweat a little bit in PvE. And taking multiple tries and refining our strategy as a group was fun. It felt cool again. Like, I really, really enjoyed the actual mission itself, and it kicked the shit out of us for a little bit until we figured out what we needed to do. But, I don't know, it'd be nice to just have a node to queue into after, like, a week or 2 of the mission being discovered, because, like, the secret, like I said before, I get the secret being something you want. But once everybody knows about it, it just becomes busy work, and I don't enjoy busy work. I enjoy grinding for things, but if it's boring busy work that prevents me from doing the thing that I ground for in the first place through fishing, another not shooting aliens in the face activity, it just doesn't feel that great. Speaking of the seasonal activity, though, deep dives. Bungie's first attempt at some very, very light roguelike elements added to gameplay. On each dive, you've got these buffs that you can choose between that add something to you, maybe making certain elements more effective, maybe giving you some kind of damage resistance, boosting precision damage, whatever. And upon each counter's successful completion, you get another one. Deep dives didn't really fuck around with the 3rd encounter either. It got genuinely difficult, and it was cool and a nice attempt at a gameplay shakeup. Like a nice first attempt at a gameplay shakeup. It was pretty fun. There was another 6-player activity called Salvage or something, and I will not check to see if I'm correct because I don't care about it. It sucked. There were not enough enemies. There's too many guardians. It took too fucking long. Power creep problems, compounding everything. It was bad. It was bad. I do not ever want to do that activity again. What's the story, though? Like, why are we doing what we're doing? Well, Sloan, the location vendor from Titan, is actually alive and being corrupted, or maybe corrupted already by some Taken shit, but only slightly? I don't know. She was saved by a giant fucking Leviathan-looking thing named Asa, and Asa's apparently got some ties to the worm gods of the Hive or something. I don't remember much more than that. I hope the lack of notable information and my refusal to look up what I've forgotten indicates what I'm trying to get across here. Except for one specific thing. One cutscene. So they have these, Destiny has these inkblot cutscenes, and if you're a fan, you know what I'm talking about. Where they actually start telling stories really well, and things are really pretty, and it's very, very cool. Asa told us some information that was conveyed through a cutscene, and in that cutscene, we get an explanation of who the witness is, what they want, and why they care so much. Oh, also, and what the Veil's connection to the Traveler and the witness is. Key information that should have been in Lightfall, but instead we get it in the seasonal story cutscene. Why? Why was this information located here and not, I don't know, the fucking expansion about us losing to the big motherfucker? This shit... Dude, this shit pissed me off. I was, oh man. And Veil Containment, by the way, an activity that you select from a node on Neomuna, yeah, that was just, oops. Here's the lore you should have had explaining what the Veil is because it's super important to the story and we never explained it in the story about preventing the bad guy from getting it. Like, how do you mishandle conveyance this hard after doing it so well with the Witch Queen's campaign? I don't understand. Like, we really just shit the bed with conveying story this year, and I don't understand why. Shifting to a more positive topic. The dungeon, Ghost of the Deep. It might not be that high on the community dungeon tier list, but I love it. It had really high enemy density, actually difficult encounters, great loot, and it was tied to our past accomplishments. At the end, you're killing somebody who is trying to revive Oryx. And that's so cool. It's also beautiful. Like, it was a great use of negative space with the open methane ocean just there. The only other time I've ever felt an ounce of thalassophobia was when I was playing Subnautica. And if a game can make me feel similar things to Subnautica, then it's got some damn good content in it. All in all, the season was fine, like the rest of them usually are. Most seasons aren't actually bad. This might have had some of the more frustrating elements with the weird lore dumps at bad times and Veil Containment existing out of necessity, but it was still fine as far as the gameplay itself. It was okay. Next up, Spooky Time. Season of the Witch. So this season, we focused on Eris becoming a hive god, and that shit was so goddamn cool. We're working within the bounds of sword logic to tithe to Eris, strengthening her so that she can go toe-to-toe against Eva Wrath, the hive god of war. We eventually resurrect Savathun, only for Eris to kill her, and through the sword logic, she banishes Xivu, I think. Look, I'm not Bife, he's got a better explanation, but it was all really cool. And it ties into the next season, but we'll get to that later. Season of the Witch had so many cool secrets. There was a weird deck building activity, kind of. The content itself, the seasonal activities were very engaging and fun. Very high enemy density, which is something that I really, really value, obviously. And there was a raid as well, actually. A reprisal of Crota's End, but a raid nonetheless. And it kicked ass, too. There was a concern after the difficulty fiasco that was Root of Nightmares that Crota's End would just be a pushover, especially since it wasn't a very difficult raid back in Destiny 1, and since it's a reprisal, like previously mentioned, it wasn't a full-on brand new experience. But no, it didn't fuck around at all. There were brand new mechanics in each encounter, and there was a shift in how we even do damage to Crota himself at the end. It put up a wall and reassured everybody that Root was a fluke and not the new normal. It was awesome. It was great. This season slapped, and it culminated with a final secret. On Savathun's wings, there was a pattern that we figured out was the final wish for the wall in Riven's lair, and we found an uncorrupted Ahamkara egg after an extensive secret puzzle that many people, not including me, spent a very long time trying to figure out the hard way. But as a result, though, next season we're going back to the Dreaming City, Season of the Wish. So this was the final season of the year, and it was a long one. With the delay for the final shape launching, since this industry is a nightmare to work in, it got extended by a couple of months. We'll talk about it in the light when we get there, but for now, the season itself. So through Techie and magic, we communed with the Spirit of Riven, and struck a bargain with her to help get us into the Traveler to chase after the Witness. I didn't mention that earlier because I didn't. Whoops. She wanted her entire clutch of eggs saved, since Savathun did some fucky shit and scattered them across the ley lines. This season's big activity was called the Coil. You ran through an area collecting Dragon Glass that you could spend at the Spirit of Riven between branches for buffs, similar to the buffs that Asa would give you in deep dives, but a little bit more interesting, especially on the more expensive tiers. I know that everybody talks about Menagerie as the best seasonal activity we've ever gotten, but I think the Menagerie pales in comparison to the Coil. It's got more loot on successful high tier clears, it was more difficult, was soloable with a scalable difficulty setting based on fire team size, and had the really fun roguelike modifiers you can mess with to encourage different playstyles. Genuinely my favorite seasonal activity. It was so fucking cool and fun, and I loved it. We also got a mission for the exotic strand bow, Wishkeeper. It was a good one. Not too long, but not too short. Enough secrets to make exploration worth it. Challenging encounters, especially on Legend, and a very, very good story about Riven and her mate. It was beautiful. I loved it. Yes, please. The season also came with a dungeon, Warlord's Ruin. People kept saying it gave them Dark Souls vibes, and I really need gamers to play more than just 3 different games. Because it was an icy castle in the mountains. It's a fantasy setting. Souls didn't create the fantasy aesthetic. Please play more video games. I don't think Warlord is my favorite dungeon, but I think it does have the best final boss encounter we've had in a dungeon ever. Climbing up and around the spiraling shit of Ahamkara bones, and getting rewarded for being cracked at short-term DPS phases, or risking it to extend the phase by having the chieftain stay alive long enough to put out a second lantern is just great. It's very cool to see different levels of skill rewarded in different ways, but also not being a requirement to progress if you don't perform at the highest tier possible. I think that boss fight is very good. Plus, I don't know why, but Malfeasant's DPS rotation felt fun. In a weird way. Like, I felt like me and Cooldu would farm the last encounter every week for the chances of getting Buried Bloodline, and I never got one, but he eventually did. But I legitimately enjoyed perfecting that DPS rotation in a 2-man setting. Oh, it was so much fun. Of all the seasons to get extended, this is probably the best one. Now, I'm not going to talk about the issues plaguing the industry beyond what I've said earlier, or Bungie's dog-pissed decision to call their staff and not take bonus cuts for higher-ups, because this is not the time or place. Nor am I competent enough to speak on these things beyond the very obvious opinion on how shit went down that I have. I just want to address that by going into the interim content so that we are aware that I am not ignoring it. I am just not equipped to speak about them more than what I've done. There are many more intelligent, more informed people that can speak on this. So into the light. It's all pretty recent, so I'm not going to go into the specifics, and the script is already longer than most anything I've ever made before. But Onslaught and returning 0 Hour and Whisper missions, plus the map pack, really brought back a bunch of confidence in the future of Destiny 2. The introduction of shiny weapons revitalized my interest in loot again. Like, unironically, it made it more enjoyable than it has ever been. The feeling of getting a weapon drop that I wanted to look at, instead of just instantly dismantling for a pattern or because I had already crafted it, was something that I sorely missed. Loot mattering as a drop and not just something I'm standing at a vendor converting currency or engrams into is important. This is a looter shooter, not a convert currency into a looter shooter. And we need more things to chase out in the game world again. Crafting is not exciting and actively hurts the game. Fuck you, Reddit. So here we are. End of the year. One of the rockiest times this game has seen. Not as bad as Curse of Osiris, mind you, but rocky enough to scare a few people into being concerned about the future of this franchise. Especially beyond the final shape. Look, I know that I'll still be here until the servers shut down, and I'm also an insane person for trying to build a channel on the back of an 11-year-old franchise that might not have the player base to support content creation in a few months. There's no but. I'm scared. I said before that almost all my friends had stopped playing, and that was true, but a few of them came back right near the end of this year, and they're looking forward to the final shape. Whether or not they stick around remains to be seen, and they're not even sure what they'll do yet either, but they wanted to get to the end of the saga that we all started back in 2014. And in less than an hour, we're going to see how the end begins. Here's hoping it goes out with a bang. But with that being said, that's going to be the end of this one. Thank you guys for watching, thank you guys for listening. If you've been here since the beginning, you understand how important these next couple of weeks are going to be. And even if you're brand new here, you know, welcome to Destiny. I hope it treats you well. Thank you for everything. I owe a lot to... I owe a lot of my personal life to Destiny as a franchise, as a game. And I wouldn't be who, where, or friends with the people that I'm friends with today without Destiny. And I owe a lot to this franchise. I owe a lot to Bungie. So this is really important to me, and I'm excited for the future. But I also know that this might be the end, and nothing should last forever. Obviously, the fact that some things have ends means that the enjoyment of while we're there is that much sweeter. But I don't know. This is important. So I just wanted to take a look back at it. Apologies for how poorly paced this one is. I started working on this on Saturday, so, and I have a job I have to go to on Monday. I'm recording this on Sunday, so, like, my script didn't get any edited, like, nobody looked over my script to make sure it was okay, so, thank you for watching, thank you for listening, have a wonderful day.